If we could look into a crystal ball and figure out the answers to just a couple of key questions, planning for the future would sure be a whole lot easier. But my crystal ball doesn't work, and neither does yours. So on today's show, we're going to talk about how to plan when you don't know how things are going to shake out in the future.
It's time for the My Retirement Clarity Podcast with Lee Perkins, financial planner and president of J.L. Perkins Wealth Management. Get ready for a good dose of inspiration, simplicity, implementation, and of course, clarity on how to successfully prepare for retirement and grow and preserve your wealth. Here's Ben George with Lee Perkins.
Well, we're glad to have you back on My Retirement Clarity. I'm Ben George. He is Lee Perkins, owner and financial advisor at J.L. Perkins Wealth Management. You'll find him online at myretirementclarity.com. You can always schedule a meeting with him just by visiting talkwithlee.com. Lee, what's going on? How's everything?
Everything's going well, man. We are excited about the podcast. We're reaching more people than ever. And, I look at the statistics, and we've got people in other countries that are somehow they found the podcast. So we appreciate the listeners out there. Thank you for subscribing. And, we always want to encourage people to go out and to Apple Podcast and give us a review. And that helps more people find us. So yeah, man, it's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, we always appreciate that feedback, and we encourage you to reach out. If you have questions or comments or want to leave a review or something, we'd love to hear from you. But again, you can schedule a meeting if you want to talk directly with Lee at any time at talkwithlee.com. That is the easiest way to do that. Now, today on the show, we got to go and plan for you. Planning oftentimes is getting you prepared for the things that we can't predict, right? But how do you do that, Lee? That's the big question, is how can you plan for these things that you don't know about? So we're going to go through it today and try to identify some of these planning topics that you don't have an answer to right now, but we know they're going to affect us at some point.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many unknowns, and you can't possibly develop a plan that will address every unknown, because if you did, it would be a known plan, and we're talking about unknown things. And so, yeah, all you need to do is make sure that you are as prepared as possible, and we'll take care of the rest as it happens. And we want to always build in as much flexibility as possible so that we are available to address the unknown.
Yeah, so let's lead off with this one, because we're in a period of tremendous volatility, I guess you could say, Lee. The market, with everything going on around the world and locally, there's just so much happening, and the market's reacted to that, obviously, right? Up and down, up and down. So we don't know when the next market crash is going to happen. We don't know what's going to cause it. We don't know how bad it's going to be, how long it'll last. There's so many unknown factors, but there are things you can do from a planning perspective to prepare for that, right?
Yeah, there's an entire industry built around predicting when the next market crash is going to happen. As you mentioned, we're, as we record this, we're, the end of February, and we're in the midst of this Russian, Ukraine, everything that's going on here, and markets are volatile. But, when's the market crash going to happen? Who knows? People have been predicting this for a long time, since Obama was elected, and then when Trump was elected, and then when Biden was elected. So nobody knows, but there is an endless line of people who are willing to give you their prediction of when it's going to happen. And one of the favorite ones I see all the time on every kind of ad that I see on Facebook it's an image of a very distinguished looking man. He's got silver hair, and the caption says, "This man has predicted the last 5 market crashes. Hear what he's saying now." And so it's very tempting to click on that ad and take what this guy is saying as gospel. Look, are there people who can guess right sometimes? Sure, because every day somebody is predicting the crash is going to happen that day. And so somebody is bound to get it right at some point. But if that person gets it right just one time, they're going to build an entire marketing campaign around that one guess. And so it will be no different than me building a marketing campaign around how to successfully get a hole in one in golf. And I did that one time, but I got lucky. I got very, very lucky. And so I could tell a story about how I prepared and took lessons and mastered the art of the hole in one. And, but what I wouldn't tell you is that I was playing on a par 3 course, and I sculled a pitching wedge from about 80 yards out. It was going to go about 150 yards at least, but that line drive shot hit the pin and dropped directly into the hole.
Wow.
And so that's how it happened. I got lucky, and I still have that golf ball today.
That's awesome.
And so this is how most stock market crash predictors operate. I would love to see somebody produce a list of the market predictions that actually didn't pan out. And I don't know that there's enough bandwidth on the internet to produce that list. But the truth is, nobody would be interested in missed predictions or the history of missed predictions. They would just move on to the next one. And so it's kind of crazy. Think about how many people predicted that the market was going to crash the second that Joe Biden unloaded his luggage at the White House.
Right.
It didn't happen. Is there volatility now? Yeah. But, it's crazy. People react to the news sometime in a really kind of a crazy way. I met a lady right after Donald Trump took office, and she told me she just moved all of her money to cash the day after he was elected because he was going to kill the stock market. And so clearly I would say her prediction was just a little bit off. She did not become a client, so I don't know what she wound up doing, but it's crazy. Hey folks, Lee Perkins here. If you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time, you know how much I hate taxes, and I know you probably do too. Our politicians are completely out of control. Their spending is off the chart, and you've got to be prepared for increasing taxes in the future. So we've written a book called Diffuse, 7 Steps to Protecting Your 401k or IRA from the Ticking Tax Time Bomb. You're going to want to grab a copy of this book and learn how you can protect yourself. Then you'll have to decide if you want to take action right now or if you'd rather wait until the IRS changes the rules of the game. Either way, the choice is yours. To get a free copy of the book, just text the word diffuse to 478-475-2050. That's DEFUSE to 478-475-2050. And we'll send you a free copy. Thanks again for listening. Now back to the show.
All right, let's talk healthcare for a minute. If anybody that has paid attention to their premiums knows that healthcare has been one of the quickest rising costs that anybody's had in the last 10 or 15 years, and there's not necessarily any end in sight, and we don't know what the future is going to hold for healthcare. The whole industry might be restructured. We hear talk about this all the time with new presidents and new administrations, but we don't know, Lee, is the bottom line. 20, 30 years out, who knows what healthcare is going to cost us? So how do you make sure you have enough money to cover that?
Yeah, this is a tough one. And I would say that healthcare cost is probably one of the biggest concerns of people that I meet with that are, especially the ones that are considering retiring before the age of 65. For those whose company insurance may not stay with them if they retire early, they may have a few gap years before Medicare, they're eligible for Medicare. And I think for most people, they feel okay once they get to age 65 and they qualify for that. And then those major health concerns go away. Certainly Medicare's got its own issues. Increasing premiums are, probably going to be a theme that we hear from Medicare for the foreseeable future. The healthcare issue is just such a moving target that I don't know if there's a good solution. I'm confident that it's going to take a larger portion of your monthly expenses in the future to cover your Medicare premium. So you certainly have to plan for that. How do you plan for that? Well, there's probably a couple things that you should do. I would say you always want to know where your money goes every month. And make sure you're doing what you need to do from an investment standpoint to grow your money. Just because you're retired, you can't stick it in the bank and live on whatever interest that they're going to give you. It's important for you to remain invested. So just because you're in your late 60s or maybe 70s, it doesn't mean that you've got to get out of the market altogether. Got to seek that opportunity to grow your assets, to be able to take care of those increasing costs. Healthcare is always going to be a political carrot that's dangled out there every 4 years. It's happened my entire lifetime. Every time I can think about it, it's healthcare, education, Social Security, all those kind of things. And so every presidential candidate for the rest of time is going to promise to fix it. Nobody's done it yet.
Yeah, no question. And who knows if it will ever happen? We just have no clue. But
yeah,
I don't have a lot of confidence.
I don't either.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about another thing that we don't know about and don't have a lot of confidence, and that's the tax rate. And this is something that you hit on quite a bit here, and it's such an important part of planning that, oftentimes gets overlooked by people that aren't working with advisors and people that are planning out their future for them. But the tax rate, right, next year, Lee, we have no clue about. So who knows what's going to happen in 3 presidents, right? 3 administrations from now. So how do you prepare taxes?
Yeah, like you said, you know me and you know my stance on taxes. I don't do a lot of predicting, and that's why I've got an actual crystal ball sitting on the conference room table in my office. I've talked about it on the show many times. And so when somebody asks me to predict something, I tell them to look into the crystal ball so they can get proof that it doesn't work. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I'm very confident that tax rates are going to be higher in the future. Mm-hmm. We could do a whole episode or a series of episodes on taxes in general. So I'm not going to go into a ton of detail here, but I would tell every single person listening to this show, you've got to be tax diversified, meaning you need to have money in different tax buckets. If all of your money is in a tax deferred bucket, you really don't have any control of how much taxes you're going to pay in the future. So if this is you've got to start doing some tax planning and maybe consider Roth conversions. And, this is a great time for us to talk about the book that we offer listeners to this show. Yeah. It's called Diffuse. It's a short book that we wrote, a year or so ago that gives you some actionable steps for you to plan for what we call the ticking tax time bomb. So if you want a copy of that book, text the word diffuse, DEFUSE, to 478-475-2050. Give us a good contact information and your phone number and all that, and we will drop a copy of that in the mail to you at no charge. And then you can apply some of that stuff on your own. And if you'd like to reach out to us to help you figure out which strategy works best for you, you can reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you.
All right. So taxes, again, such a big part, but take advantage of that. Again, that offer that Lee gives to anybody that listens to the show. It's such a great opportunity. All right. We got one more here on our list, and that's longevity. We talk about this on our show quite a bit, Lee, but we don't know how long we're going to live. And if we did, you wouldn't need really a plan, right? You could just do the averages and know how much money you could spend every day and you'd be fine. But we don't know if we're going to live for 5 years or 25 more years, right? So how do you make sure you don't run out of money? Because I know that's everybody's biggest fear.
Yeah, it really is. And nobody knows the answer to this because we don't know how long we're going to live. And I mentioned on an earlier podcast that in the first 18 days of this year, I had three clients pass away, all men, all under the age of 74. But I would tell you, for most of my clients, I don't know, everybody seems to want to save for that rainy day, this rainy day that we've heard about our whole lives, and it rarely comes. And so people don't spend their money because they're planning on living forever. And then like these clients, they pass away early 70s and they never got to enjoy the money. I just got back from a trip to Cancun. My wife and I went with, I don't know, maybe 12 or 14 other people, just some friends that we have. And one of the couples brought their parents. Their parents are 83 and 84 years old, and they're still going. Now that's not the norm. Normally when people are in their early 80s, they're not really doing a whole lot. So that whole conversation there centers around what I've talked about on the show before, the 3 phases of retirement: the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. So early on, the go-go years is when you're young enough and healthy enough to go and do the things that you may need to be a little more active to do. And then as you age a little bit, you enter the slow-go years, and where, doctor's appointments take more time in your day and things like that. Your friends start passing away. You go to more funerals. And then for most people, when we transition into the no-go years, you don't really do a whole lot. So anyway, you just have to kind of figure out what you think your longevity is and plan to live a long time. Hey, if your number's called earlier, it is what it is, but don't be on your deathbed thinking, man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that, because that's what people think about. They're not worried about how much money they've got in their account. They want to be with family and friends and things like that. So spend the time that you have doing the things that you want to do.
That's so true. You definitely want to spend the time doing the things that you want to do and getting the most out of all the hard work you've put in throughout your your life as well. So these are just some of the reasons, Lee, and some of the things that you're looking at from a planning perspective. But I think the most important thing is having a financial advisor that can work with you on these things, because all of these are very difficult to handle on your own.
Yeah, they really are. And like we said on our last episode of the podcast, people don't know what they don't know. And so whether it's our office or somebody else, somebody that you know and you trust, make sure you're reaching out to somebody that knows you and your situation and what your concerns are. And they will make sure that you are able to thrive in retirement. And it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it.
All right. Very good. So again, if you want to set up a time to meet with Lee, you can do that. Talkwithlee.com is the website to check out. And we'll put all of our podcasts, including this one, up online at myretirementclarity.com. So make sure you visit our website too and go back and listen to past episodes, because there's a lot of valuable information there and conversation along the way. And the whole goal of the podcast is to educate. Well, let's finish with a little bit of inspiration to close out the show today. This quote came from a man by the name of Gene Perret. I think that's how you say his last name, but we're going to stick with it for the show. All right, here's the quote, Lee. Retirement is when you switch bosses from the one who hired you to the one who married you.
Yeah, I thought this was a funny quote, but it's absolutely true. And in meeting with people who are about to retire, and maybe the wife has already retired and she stayed home or whatever, I asked him, what's one of the big transitions that's going to happen when the husband retires and comes home? And they always say learning how to live in the same house for an extra 8 hours a day, because for a lot of people you get in your routine and all those kind of things. And so for some people, they really sort of have to learn to reintroduce themselves to each other in retirement. I just referenced the older couple that went to Cancun with us. They've been married for 67 years, and he's been retired for almost 30. Wow. So they've done a lot, spent a lot of time in retirement with each other. So we'll see. I joked with Pam after we heard that. I was like, "You think you could be married to me for 67 years?" She's like, "Probably not. We're only 20 in." I'm like, "You got 47 more years of this." So anyway, we had a good laugh about that.
Pace yourself.
That's it.
All right, Lee. We'll close it on that note. Again, I appreciate it. Take advantage of that free ticking text time bomb book offer as well. And you can always schedule a time to meet with Lee. Talkwithlee.com. For Lee Perkins, owner and financial advisor at J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, I am Ben George. Thanks for listening to this episode of My Retirement Clarity. We'll talk to you on the next one.
Investment advisory services are offered by J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor and insurance agency. Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action.